Good morning, beloved. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, please. Good morning, beloved. I am actually still dealing with the topic that I'm getting ready to talk with you about. Somebody inboxed me, and I was responding to their inbox, and I just wanted to. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So let me say this. I kind of slept a little rough the last couple of nights. And this morning I woke up and my stomach was really bothering me because there's so much going on in the world. And there's this statement that was made, a phrase that was made by, I don't know, y'all know who it was. I can't say his name because I don't want people to say I'm in Facebook jail. And I think it's not because of what I said, it's because of the names I said of people who I directed my vitriol at. But the statement and everybody's jumping on is punks in the pulpit, and it sounds good. It's great alliteration. I speak in alliteration. I use, all A's, then B's, then C's, and so it sounds great alliteration. I want to say this because I've known that person. I've worked with that person. I've been to fundraiser events with that person. I respected that person. I was arrested in the Amadou Diallo shooting when I was a class president at NYTS with the person who was his right hand man at the time, Jacques DeGraff. I don't know if Jacques is still working with him or not. We lost touch some time ago. Even called and got advice from the person through Jacques when I was in Tennessee and the Ku Klux Klan was marching there some 18, 19 years ago. Good morning. And I don't spend a lot of time responding to what people say. I really try to use this format for spiritual growth and development and bring people together and stuff like that. I don't use this time for a lot like this. I hardly ever do. But between the inboxes and people posting it, I wanted to say this to you because you have to be careful of what you say and hear sometimes the contradiction and stuff. And this is one of the things my Uncle Levi taught me. Never use words interchangeably. So etymology, history of words, and all of those things. Pretty much every word I use, I know the history of it, the etymology of it, where it comes from, and where it started. So there's no such thing, truthfully, as a punk, first and foremost, in the way we use the word. But then there is no such thing as a punk, period. The word punk, P-U-N-K, comes from a European word, punk, P-O-N-K, which means worthless, rotten wood. And so when you call somebody a punk, what you're saying is they are worthless. God, if you are a Christian and a child of God, you do not believe God made anybody that's worthless or junk. The word punk does not mean afraid. There are some scaredy cats in the pulpit, yes. There are some cowards in the pulpit, yes. There's some gays, there's some lesbians, there's some alcoholics, there's some liars, there's some thieves, there's some gamblers, there's some misfits, there's some uneducated people, there's some stink people, there's some fat people, there's some skinny people, there's some black people, there's some white people, there's some rich people, there's some poor people, there's prophets without portfolio, according to Bill of Guzzles. There are all types of people in all types of pulpit all around the world, but there is no punk. Punk does not mean scared. Don't use words and phrases interchangeably. If you think you're ever going to repeat this, please disconnect from it, because I believe all people have value. Do I wish the pulpit had more honest people? Do I wish the pulpit had more courageous people? Do I wish the pulpit had less charlatans and liars and thieves, and had good men and women who were stable and forthright and affirming and everything and were of the utmost integrity? I do, but it doesn't. But it also doesn't have any punks, especially the black pulpit. So when you say that they are a punk, what the word means worthless. This is why you can't use words interchangeably. So you can't say Black Lives Matter, which means I'm worth something, but then call people in the pulpit punks, because you're saying they don't matter. They are worthless. The black pulpit has been the guiding light for many a lost soul. It has led a many a weary travel, giving them a place to lay their head. Good morning, Brother Moore. It's given many a weary traveler a place to lay their head. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. But there are no punks in the pulpit. There is no, God doesn't create punks. I used to go around with my uncle Levi Bowman when he would sell wood. And he knew who needed wood and what type of wood they needed, because different wood lets off different smells and smoke color. And so he would have different types of wood: pine wood, pecan wood, oak wood. And then he would take all this old rotten wood. And he would talk to me and say, well, I got a few pieces of punk wood in there. Now, I was young. I was like 14, 15. I was like, why are you calling the wood a piece of punk? The wood ain't scared. I mean, like, you know, it's going in the fire. And then he explained to me, he said, no, a punk ain't a scared person. He said, punk wood is worthless wood. It's rotten, it's worthless. You can barely even use it to start a fire. You put a little piece on there to kind of keep the fire going, and it'll burn real fast. He said, he said, I don't care what you ever call a man. He said, I don't care if it's your worst enemy and he's called you the most disgusting things in the world. He said, don't you ever call a man a punk, because everybody has value in God's sight. He said, don't ever use that phrase. He said, don't you ever let me hear you use that term towards another human being. You see, the words we think are disgusting ain't the words that's disgusting. The things we think we calling people are bad, that's not what's bad. Is it those slight little subtle words like that? There are no punks in the black pulpit. Do I agree with everything and everybody and everything that comes out of the black pulpit? No. And I hope some of y'all know him and will tag him in this and get me and him in a conversation. There is no such thing on the planet Earth as a punk. Nobody in God's sight is worthless. Jesus Christ died for us all. You have to be careful of eloquent speech, and the Bible says that. Now, do I agree with the way this movement is going? No. You see the thing I put about Malcolm X on my page? Give me some of them people. Let's start a movement based on what Malcolm was teaching, then I'll come go. I'll show up with my 2, 3, 4, 500 people. But the way y'all doing it, I think that's a little cowardice. I think that's a little sheepish. Because see, you going to tell them what they did is wrong. Malcolm Way taught them not only is it wrong, but would teach them don't do it no more. So to me, the way we going about this, that's the cowardice way. But you know what? I would never say it's they're punks. Because it ain't about scared. A punk is a worthless person. There is nobody on the planet, even David Duke, in God's sight has somebody. Donald Trump, in God's sight, has somebody. Mitch McConnell, in God's sight, has somebody. Even the man who called black pastors punks in the pulpit has some value in God's life. And while I vehemently disagree with the use of that word, I vehemently disagree with the use of that word. No man or woman, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual preference, orientation, political affiliation, whether Jeffrey Dahmer had value in God's sight. Hitler had value in God's sight. There's no such thing as a punk. Everything God created has value. Even the wood that is rotted and became punk wood, before it rotted, it had value. Yes, Sister Simpson, even Mitch McConnell. I would never refer to another human being as a punk, because punk means worthless. As a Christian minister, I may disagree with people about a lot of different things, but I would never, nothing can ever happen that would allow me to refer to another human being as that. That's worse than the N-word. Because even when they called us niggas, we had value. Go cut the field, do this, do that. Hell, they even say you can learn a lot from a dummy. There's a commercial with the car crash that you can learn a lot from a dummy. Even a dummy has value. Worthless. See, y'all and the Bible talks about, you know, these fancy words and eloquent speech and this and that, and y'all rah, 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 yeah, yeah. Listen, man. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to the context. Punks in a pulpit? Do I agree with everybody in the pulpit? No, but they're not punks. This is a hard job, being honest. And even those persons who are charlatans and are crooks and doing all this alcoholism, it takes some type of foolhardy courage to dare get up and say, I speak for God and do all of this stuff in his name. But they're not punks. Their life is worth something. Even if their life is teaching somebody else, don't you be like this, their life is worth something. Every life is worth something. So if you want to remain a friend of mine, don't repost that on your page. Don't hashtag that. And if you haven't hashtag on your page before this, you saw this, I'm going to ask you to please take it down. And if you don't want to take it down, that's fine. I'm going to ask you to disconnect from me. Any place in my timeline, I'll look without question, without hesitation, without anything. If I see that hashtag, I'm going to disconnect from you. Not because you're worthless, but because you think other human beings are worthless, or you didn't do the work necessary to educate yourself on the word and the term, and that's just lazy. And two people I don't like around me is lazy people and people who think people are worthless. You and I, if you're lazy or you think people are worthless, you and I have nothing in common. You should, before you started hashtagging it and repeating it, you should have researched it. You should have enlightened yourself. You should have educated yourself. Oh, I know you got entertained by it. And you see, we so busy wanting to be entertained by stuff, we don't want to be enlightened and educated. That's why we're doing the same thing now that they were doing in the 60s. Because it's entertaining. It's not edifying. It's not enlightening. It's not moving us any further forward. So I just wanted to get on here this morning and say that. That is a horrible and probably one of the most disgusting words in the human lexicon in any language and thing that you can say to a person, that you are worthless. We are in a movement where we're saying Black lives matter, all lives matter. Okay, this life matter, that life matter. And on one hand, you're saying all lives matter, and on the other hand, you're saying your life is worthless once you refer to anybody, race, creed, or color, as a punk. You're saying your life is worthless. And sadly, this movement is because people see our Black lives as worthless. So it is a contradictory statement. But y'all liked it. You applauded it. You laughed at it. Let your words and your deeds let your words and your deeds match. Brother Williams, you're right. But we have to start with seeing all the people we preach to as valuable, of having some worth. And if we think anybody has no worth, then we are not fit to preach this gospel. I agree with you totally 100%. But it starts with us believing all life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever, all people, have a worth. And so the moment we call or refer to another human being as a punk, we have abandoned, we have abdicated our authority as a child of God to offer redemption. Are there some people I wish wasn't in the pulpit? Plenty of them. If I had time, I'd give you the names A through Z. But you know what? I'll never refer to them as a punk because they're not worthless. Everybody has some worth. So that's my PSA. Please share it. Please hashtag it. Do whatever you want to do. Educate somebody else. That's the most disgusting thing you can be called. Whether you're white or black, young, old, male, female, this, that. That's the most derogatory thing you can be called. A punk. Because what that person just called you is worthless. It just called you worthless. The most insulting thing you can say to a kid, you ain't S. You're a worthless piece of S. You know how bad that hurts. How many times have you heard people say that to people? You're like, ooh, dang, did they just say that to them? Right. The word punk is the intellectual way of telling somebody that they are worthless. God bless you. Heaven smile on you. That's my PSA for today. There are no punks in the black pulpit. Probably in no pulpit. I would think there's no punks in no pulpit. But since I've been in the black pulpit and I'm a black pulpiteer, I'm a member of the black church, past, present, and plan to be a part of it in the future. Since I'm a product of the black church, I preach in the black church, I pray in the black church. I've never, in my 53 years on the planet, run into a member of the black church, from the pulpit to the back pew, that was a punk, or I will refer to as a punk, in any other church. God bless you. Heaven smile. Have a great day.